My beloved child, do not look away from this moment because it is no accident that these words have reached you now. There is a presence from above leaning close, trying to whisper something that concerns your life, your future, and the truth about a person tied to your destiny. The air has shifted around you, almost as if the invisible veil between this world and the other has been brushed aside just for you. They have been trying to send signs, through dreams that feel too vivid, through strange repetitions of numbers, and through sudden waves of emotion that hit you without warning. These are not coincidences, my beloved child, but urgent messages woven with care by heaven. Someone from beyond is reaching for you now, and they will not rest until you know what they've come to reveal. The message concerns a person who has stepped into your life with more weight than you realize. Their presence is not random, their actions not accidental, and their connection to you holds secrets deeper than you have dared to uncover. Heaven says it is time for you to know before the opportunity slips away. Your spirit has already felt the pull, the unexplainable shiver in your chest when their name appears, the uneasy silence when they walk away, and the hidden thread that tugs at you when you think of them. Heaven's messenger wants to tell you what lies behind that thread, and why you must pay attention now before the clock runs out. There is a hush settling now, a careful silence placed like a hand over your heart so you will hear every soft instruction that follows. The person you think you know has a pattern that repeats in whispers and small acts, and heaven has catalogued each one with patient clarity for you to see. Receive this moment as if it were a lamp being lit in a dark room where everything hidden will become visible. You have felt the chest tighten when their name appears on your screen, the sudden fatigue after a long conversation, and the way your dreams leave a residue that tastes like salt and unfinished sentences. These somatic signals are not accidents but fingerprints left by the spirit world to point you toward truth and away from harm. Pay attention to the tiny alarms your body rings, for they are the first language heaven uses when danger hides behind a familiar smile. There is a circle of protection around you that has been quietly strengthened, and heaven asks only that you notice the small confirmations it sends, a repeated number on receipts, the same lyric arriving twice in a day, a stranger repeating a phrase that lands like a key. These confirmations are not random but coded nudges directing your feet toward clarity and away from traps disguised as favors. Keep a quiet journal now and record every echo and pattern so the messages will align into a map you can read. Archangel Michael says this plainly with a voice that feels like iron wrapped in light, that not every intention that comes close to you is holy. There are gentle deceptions that look like help and loud betrayals that dress themselves as love, and the one who concerns you carries both in measured doses. Heaven does not frighten you without reason, and this warning arrives because your soul matters deeply to the courts above. Listen for the small ways your peace is stolen after they leave the room, like a breeze carrying ash where there should be perfume, and note the times your stomach knots when you try to believe what your eyes already know. These feelings are not failures of faith but a compass tuning itself to truth, and you are allowed to trust them without shame. Let each uneasy moment be a quiet test you pass by naming what you felt and setting a boundary as your answer. There will be signs that reveal their intentions slowly and with exquisite care, and heaven will arrange encounters that press their edges into the light. You may overhear a phrase that undoes a well-crafted story, or you may find proof tucked into a conversation they thought you would forget. When such evidence arrives, do not rush to confront before you have clarity, and do not ignore what your soul already suspected because clarity demands a steady hand. Heaven invites you to practice 3 small spiritual disciplines now that will sharpen your discernment and steady your heart. Breathe into silence for 5 deep counts each morning, note 1 repeating sign in your journal before sleep, and name 1 boundary you will hold this week without apology. These actions sound simple, and they are, because often the divine moves through the ordinary to preserve you from the catastrophic. Commit to these practices as sacred rituals that protect your peace and cultivate spiritual eyesight. Expect tests that will feel like blessings wrapped in urgency, and recognize that true blessings rarely rush you into secrecy or shame. If an opportunity arrives asking you to hide, lie, or move faster than your inner compass allows, gently step back and consult the small log you have been keeping. The ledger of little things becomes your evidence, and heaven honors the slow, patient person who collects truth in the margins. You may receive a dream that repeats the same scene 3 nights in a row, a living sign that deserves careful translation rather than dismissal. Record the dream and the feelings it leaves behind, and then compare its symbols with the waking signs that arrive in your day. These convergences will form the map that tells you whether this person brings alignment or manipulation into your life. There will also be people sent by light who will appear as ordinary companions, and their presence will help you see what the louder voices cannot. Trust those whose counsel leads you to more peace, not more confusion, and who ask for your safety rather than your secrecy. Heaven often uses another's steady clarity to reflect truth when your own heart is clouded by longing. Prepare simple, practical boundaries you can state calmly and without drama, such as limiting late-night conversations, insisting on transparent plans, and protecting your private journals and finances. Boundaries are not punishments but architecture for your soul, and they teach others how to treat the sacred place inside you. Speak them once with firmness and repeat only if necessary, for your energy is meant to be guarded, not squandered. Archangel Michael says, stand firm in the daily smallness of discipline, because the great reveals are built from tiny consistent choices. Courage is not always loud. Sometimes it is showing up for yourself again and again after you have been disappointed. Let your courage be steady and practical, rooted in rituals that bring light rather than fear. If confrontation becomes necessary, prepare it with witnesses and evidence, and never wage a spiritual battle while emotionally spent. Gather your journal, the repeating signs, and a friend whose presence steadies you. Then speak only the facts you can show and the boundaries you will maintain. Let truth be presented as a calm reclamation rather than a cry for revenge, and allow heaven to be the judge of motive where human hearts are messy. When you choose healing over retaliation, watch how the world rearranges itself to honor that decision, and notice how new doors open that were never visible before. Healing draws helpers, and when you refuse to be defined by betrayal, you create space for destiny to take form. Keep tending that space with prayer, rest, and careful, nourishing habits. The person in question may plead, promise, or rewrite their story in ways that are tempting and polished, but the test of transformation is time and consistent action rather than urgent pleas. Look for change that lasts beyond public declarations, and let history speak where words fail. If gentleness now becomes consistent kindness over months, the spirit of the person will show. If it evaporates with the next convenience, heed what heaven whispered earlier. You are not alone in this. There are unseen hands working to protect your heart and to reroute the consequences of hidden plans. Sometimes protection looks like subtle redirection rather than dramatic intervention, and you will find yourself steered away from a meeting or offered a different path that preserves you. Accept these detours as mercies disguised as delays, because often what looks like a postponed blessing is a life saved from harm. Create a daily declaration to anchor yourself that names your worth, your boundaries, and your readiness for truth. Speak it aloud each morning with conviction, for words spoken into the air become scaffolding for the spirit. This declaration will act as a lighthouse when doubts crash at night, keeping your course steady toward clarity. Allow time for grief to arrive and for gratitude to follow, for both are necessary companions on the road to restoration. When a relationship shifts, mourn what was and simultaneously thank heaven for the lesson and for the new doors that follow. These paired movements of sorrow and thanks will ground you in reality without collapsing your hope. As the dust settles, choose practices that refill you, nourishing food, steady sleep, companions who listen without judgment, and a creative act that reconnects you to purpose. Rebuild slowly and with intention so that the next chapter is not a hurried fix but a thoughtful construction. The more intentionally you restore, the less likely you are to repeat patterns that drew you into confusion. Now gather your courage and your journal and step forward into the light that is already waiting, for heaven has sent this message to protect what is most precious in you. Rise with steady gentleness and clear-eyed resolve, and let the small rituals you keep be the way you honor the guidance that arrived. You were chosen for more than survival, you were chosen to flourish in truth. I choose truth now and I will walk in the peace that follows. I choose boundaries that protect my heart and practices that sharpen my sight. I choose restoration that is slow, sacred, and real. There is one last, quiet thing heaven asks you to do before you move, and it is both simple and fierce in its power. Name the truth out loud and let the sound settle in your bones. Speak the small facts you know into the air where the light can hold them, because naming pulls scattered pieces together and invites proof to show its face. When words are given weight, they become tools you can use to build a steadier life. Keep a folder of small evidences that arrive, screenshots, receipts, messages, times and places, and let that folder be your calm repository when emotions swell and stories rewrite themselves. Evidence is not a weapon to wound but a map to clarity, and the map protects you from getting lost inside someone else's changing script. Treat every small item you collect as a breadcrumb leading you back to your center when fog threatens to pull you sideways. Choose one trusted friend to act as a witness for your truth and ask them only for steadiness, not answers or judgments. A witness need not fix the problem. Their role is to be the steady surface against which you can place your story and see it reflect clearly. When another soul holds what you say without panic, your own voice regains its authority. Refuse secret dealings and ask for transparency in practical matters that touch your life. Finances, schedules, and personal accounts are not bargaining chips and should never be moved without your full knowledge. Insist on paper trails and clear communication because love that asks for secrecy often hides what it cannot justify in daylight. When agreements are visible and recorded, you stay safe and the truth cannot be folded away into convenient forgetfulness. Make your sleep a sanctuary by establishing a nightly boundary of rest that is non-negotiable, and let your body complete what the day began. Sleep heals and reveals in its own time, and the clarity that comes with rest will make the next day kinder to your judgment. Protecting sleep is protecting the part of you that sees straightest. If you feel pressure to forgive before you are ready, remember that forgiveness is a process and not a performance to be rushed. Give yourself the grace to step through each stage of repair on your terms, and allow heaven's timing to guide the moments when reconciliation might be safe and genuine. True forgiveness blooms after lessons have been learned and behaviors have shifted, not before. When you take decisive steps to protect yourself, notice how the world responds with unexpected alignments. Doors that were stuck begin to open, conversations that were closed now unravel, and new people arrive with practical solutions. These arrivals are not accidents but the visible fruit of the prayers and careful choices you have already made. Accept help when it is wise and keep your heart guarded with the same tenderness you offer others. Build a small ritual of celebration for each truth you uncover, even if the truth hurts, because recognizing what is real honors your own courage. Light a candle, write a short note of thanks, or step outside and breathe deeply to mark the moment, for rituals create transitions and help the soul register movement. These acts are tiny ceremonies that train your spirit to move from shock to sovereignty. If you must step away from this relationship for a season, do so with humility and without rancor, knowing that absence can be a form of protection and a path to clarity. Distance may reveal patterns that proximity obscures, and your peace is worth the careful choice to pause. Return only if transformation is sustained and the evidence of change is unmistakable. Let your prayers be paired with practical actions, for heaven moves in ways that often require our feet to follow. Pray for clarity and then close doors that invite harm. Ask for peace and then write the boundaries that protect it, request guidance and then keep the small journal that lets you see the answers as they come. The divine tends to human agency, not to passivity, and your cooperation is part of the miracle. Keep living into your gifts and passions as you sort this truth, because purpose is the net under you when revelations rattle the cage. Reconnect with the acts that make you feel most like yourself and let them ground you in long-term identity beyond any one relationship. When your life is full of meaning, manipulations lose their gravity and the world regains its color. Expect a final test that will ask you to choose between a quick fix and enduring dignity, and decide now that dignity is your inheritance. Quick fixes trade your future for a momentary relief and often leave a quieter ruin behind. Choose the longer road that preserves your integrity and builds a future that will not require repair. If reconciliation is to come, insist on measurable signs of change that last beyond a single moment of contrition, and let time be the arbiter of sincerity. Actions repeated across months reveal character far more accurately than a night of polished apologies. Trust the slow reveal more than the bright flash. Hold firm to the ordinary disciplines that keep you steady, nourishing food, honest sleep, regular movement, and times of stillness that are not rushed. These small practices are the scaffolding for spiritual discernment and emotional resilience. Guard them as sacred work that supports every other choice you make. When the dust finally settles, and it will, allow yourself to celebrate the new horizon without guilt, for survival deserves recognition and restoration deserves honor. Walk into the next season carrying the lessons like tools rather than wounds, and let hope become the engine of your new life. The future waiting for you is kinder when you step into it with eyes that have learned to recognize light. Speak aloud 3 declarations each morning that name your worth, your boundaries, and your readiness for truth, and let those words become the soundtrack of your courage. When you rehearse the life you are building, your actions begin to follow and the world rearranges to meet that conviction. Daily declarations are small pledges that compound into profound change. Remember that mercy can coexist with justice, and you do not betray either when you choose to protect your heart. Allow compassion for the human flaws you witness, while still insisting on behavior that respects your dignity. Balance is not weakness, it is wisdom applied to how you love and how you defend what is sacred inside you. As you move forward, keep an eye for new signs of alignment that show up as invitations to growth rather than as shortcuts to comfort. Opportunities that expand your life without asking you to shrink are the kind heaven prefers to send. Accept them slowly and with both joy and prudence. Rise now into the practice of steady attention, for heaven's messages often arrive through the accumulation of small confirmations rather than a single thunderclap. Be the kind of person who notices, records, and then acts with measured courage, and you will find that protection follows such discipline like a faithful companion. Your life is worth the careful tending you are capable of giving. I choose truth and I walk forward with boundaries, practices, and steady hope. I choose restoration that is patient and changes that are visible over time. I choose to honor the lessons and to step into the future with dignity. There is a quiet inventory being taken now in the realm you cannot see, and each small truth you gather becomes a light that cuts through fog and falsehood. Collect those lights like lanterns and place them where you can find them in the dark moments, for they will guide you back to steadiness when doubt presses in. The work of gathering is gentle and relentless, and it honors the soul that chooses clarity over comfortable illusion. Allow yourself pauses that are long enough to breathe into, and let silence be the place where answers form without being forced. In those spaces your intuition will speak without fuss and your body will deliver its honest signals unedited by fear. Practice waiting in the quiet until your next step feels like a soft certainty rather than a hurried escape. When memories surface that used to hurt, let them be held rather than hidden, and allow compassion to wash over the parts of you that still ache. Healing is not linear and it does not demand immediate forgetting, only steady tending and gentleness. Offer tenderness to yourself the way a caretaker attends a slow wound, with warmth, patience, and a refusal to rush the process. Keep your circle small and deliberate during this season, surrounding yourself with those whose presence reads like a warm room rather than a crowded theater. People who steady you will mirror truth without dramatics and will show up with practical hands when you need simple help. Treasure these steady souls and return their care with the same quiet generosity they offer you. If anger rises, use it as an instrument rather than a contagion, allowing it to carve clear boundaries without consuming your peace. Anger has a purpose when it protects what matters and when it is translated into firm action that keeps you safe. Channel that energy into decisions that secure your life and preserve the tender places inside you. Practice saying short, firm phrases that reclaim your space, and repeat them until the echo inside you is as loud as the doubts outside. Simple sentences like "I will protect my peace" and "I refuse secrecy" become the architecture of your daily life. Let repetition make these sentences into habits that anchor you when storms arrive. Honor the small victories with brief celebrations that register progress in your body and spirit, not just in your mind. A short walk, a favorite song, a warm cup held between your hands will signal to your nervous system that safety can return. These small rewards teach your heart to trust movement toward goodness rather than retreat into fear. Allow practical safeguards to become part of your routine, because mundane acts often contain divine wisdom. Update passwords, keep important documents in a secure place, and name one person who can access things in an emergency. These tasks may feel small, but they are the scaffolding that keeps your life intact while spiritual work unfolds. Invite light into ordinary spaces by doing one simple ritual each morning that centers your intention for the day, such as lighting a candle or speaking a short affirmation. Rituals create a pattern the unseen world honors and your inner landscape recognizes as sacred. Over time, these modest acts build a language of protection and clarity around you. When you feel pulled toward forgiveness, test it by watching for consistent change over time, and allow yourself to reserve deeper reconciliation for clear evidence of transformation. Forgiveness without reform leaves openings for repeat harm, while measured forgiveness rooted in accountability becomes a bridge back to trust. Let time be your ally in witnessing whether promises hold. Keep a running list of small behaviors that matter to you and share them when rebuilding trust becomes appropriate, for clarity about expectations is an act of love both for yourself and for others. When you define what treatment you will accept, you give the other person a fair map for repair and you keep your soul from being a moving target. Boundaries drawn in kindness are more sustainable than those drawn in accusation. Cultivate a practice of gratitude that is honest and specific, naming both the struggle and the unexpected mercies that arrive in its wake. Gratitude does not erase pain, but it teaches the heart to notice growth and to recognize help when it comes. This practice rewires perception so that beauty is easier to locate amid the debris of betrayal. Let the seasons of your life be measured in lessons rather than in losses, and allow each lesson to be folded into the person you are becoming without shame. Growth sometimes demands that we leave people or places we love in order to find ourselves again. Embrace these passages as necessary chapters rather than punishments. When confusion clouds your judgment, return to the ledger you have been keeping and let concrete items override rumor, guilt, or pleading. Facts are a compassionate friend when emotions threaten to rewrite the past, and the ledger is where truth resignifies itself into clarity. Consult it as often as needed until the fog lifts and your path becomes visible again. Invite beauty back into your life through small creative acts that remind you of your aliveness, such as drawing, humming a melody, planting a seed, or arranging flowers. Creativity is a conduit for restoration and a declaration that your spirit continues to produce despite interruption. These acts stitch your inner world back together in threads both subtle and strong. Keep your mind steady by limiting exposure to drama, both direct and vicarious, and by protecting the hours that belong only to rest and quiet productivity. Overstimulation scatters attention and feeds the narrative monsters that want to rewrite your story. Protecting those hours is a practical devotion to your continued clarity. When the moment for honest conversation arrives, choose words that are precise and calm, and resist the urge to unpack every hurt at once. A well-timed statement that names a boundary and an expectation can redirect a relationship far more effectively than a long litany of grievances. Let simplicity be your ally when truth needs to be delivered. Trust the body's small signals as the first line of spiritual guidance, and treat its warnings with the same respect you would offer a wise friend. The body often senses before the mind can name, and honoring it prevents needless harm. Listen to its rhythms and let them instruct your steps forward. As new doors open, step through with curiosity balanced by caution, aware that excitement can sometimes mask risk. Test the new opportunities by allowing time for one more confirmation before fully committing. This practice keeps hope alive while protecting you from repeating patterns that led to pain. Keep returning to the simple daily commitments that keep you anchored, and let them be the quiet engine that drives your restoration. Small acts compounded across days and months produce a durable life that resists quick fixes and honors deep repair. Commit to the slow work and trust its power. Walk forward now with both gentleness and resolve, carrying the lessons you have gathered like a steady map in your hand. Your life is not defined by what was done to you but by how wisely and kindly you move after knowing the truth. The unseen helpers who sent this message remain near, and their care is woven into the steady steps you are taking. There is a new layer unfolding around you now, as if heaven has been waiting for you to absorb the earlier words before releasing the next piece. The message has always been building toward a deeper truth. You are not only being warned, you are being prepared for elevation. What feels like a disruption is in fact a realignment, pulling you away from false connections and anchoring you into authentic destiny. My beloved child, notice how each separation is creating space, how each revelation is clearing the noise, and how each boundary you set strengthens your spiritual shield. The one who was cloaked in half-truths cannot walk with you into the next season, because the weight of their secrecy would poison your promise. Trust this separation as sacred pruning, painful yet essential for the fruit that is about to grow. As you move forward, heaven will send replacements clothed not in deception but in integrity. These souls will arrive quietly, bearing kindness without needing recognition, and they will feel like rest rather than a performance. Welcome them slowly, for heaven builds long-lasting connections through patience, not urgency. Archangel Michael says to sharpen your vigilance now, because distractions will try to pull you back into cycles already broken. Old voices may reappear, tempting you with apologies, with nostalgia, with promises stitched together in haste. But you are stronger now, and the records you have kept, the signs, the evidence, the boundaries, will remind you why you walked away. Expect in the coming days a surge of energy that feels almost electric, a divine confirmation that you are aligned with protection. You may feel tingles in your skin, warmth in your chest, or an unusual calm in your thoughts, and these sensations will be the signature of heaven's nearness. Do not ignore them, let them reassure you that you are seen and supported. Your journal of signs will soon shift from warnings to affirmations. Instead of circling words of betrayal, you will start to notice numbers of alignment, dreams of renewal, and songs that echo promises of restoration. This shift will be your proof that the season of warning is giving way to the season of building. When restoration begins, it will not come in a dramatic storm but in steady drops of blessing that gather into rivers. A phone call leading to a new opportunity, a chance meeting that opens doors, or a quiet message that arrives at the exact moment you need it. These are heaven's breadcrumbs, and following them will draw you into the wide spaces of safety and abundance. Guard your speech in this next phase, for not everyone is meant to know what is being restored to you. Some truths are seeds that must stay buried until they take root. Share only with those who celebrate your growth without envy, and let the rest witness from a distance.